Good evening and welcome to episode 16 of this Finger Lakes Golfer podcast on FingerLakes1.com and FingerLakes1.tv. Recorded live on Monday evening, September 29th, 2014. I'm your host, Jim Sinacropi, and once again I'm joined up here in the FingerLakes1.com studio by my co-host, the Big Easy.
Good evening, Jim.
Bob LaPrade. Thanks again for joining me up here tonight, Bob, on Monday evening, and this is our season finale.
Yes, it is.
We did 16. It was a idea that we thought we'd do just for fun, and the viewership was pretty strong, and that made it more enjoyable to come up here and talk golf every Monday night.
Right.
And here we are. We're going to take after tonight, we're going to take the winter off and be back sometime around the Masters to probably preview it, and then we'll pick it up again on Monday nights.
Sounds great. We got a humdinger of a show tonight.
We do got a humdinger of a show tonight. We have former Waterloo varsity golf coach and four-time Seneca Falls Country Club champ Doug Brown is in studio to talk about Europe's drubbing of the U.S. in the Ryder Cup over the weekend. And we're also going to discuss equipment maintenance heading into the off-season. Bob will give us an update on his cork putter grip that he's actually used in play over the past week. Mm-hmm. We're going to give you holes number 16, 17, and 18 of our Finger Lakes Dream 18. So we're going to round out the Dream 18 tonight. And our Zen tip of the week will be a general discussions on the merits of the Zen approach. So, great show, you're right, Bob. And let's start off by welcoming into the studio tonight and onto the show, former Waterloo varsity golf coach and four-time Seneca Falls Club champion, Doug Brown.
Thanks, Jim. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you up here. It's always more fun when we have one of our friends up here with some golf knowledge. It adds to the discussion.
For sure. And
there's a lot to talk about tonight. So I'd like kind of to start off with the Ryder Cup because I know that you've made it appointment viewing even at 2:30 in the morning, right?
Yes. When it's in Europe, I typically get up 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning and watch it from the start.
So is the biological clock adjusted back to normal yet? Or?
Not quite yet. A couple more days.
So, the big news today is that Mickelson, after the U.S. gets crushed, kind of called out Tom Watson on his approach and method of choosing the team and picking the partners. And, to me, that was kind of shocking to see two legends of the game. Mickelson's a legend, still towards the end of his prime. And Watson, is one of the all-time legends. Right. And so usually golfers on that level don't take jabs at each other like that. So I was a little disappointed in, Mickelson, to tell you the truth. I think that's stuff that you do behind closed doors. But, Doug, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I didn't agree with it either. I think, Tom Watson's an icon of the game. I think he was a good pick as a captain. People raved about him when he was chosen because he won the last time in '93. Still, the bottom line is those guys that are automatic picks and captain's pick have to go out and play. Tom Watson can't play. They can't play defense. I think if he wants to have a discussion behind closed doors, I agree. But to throw him away like that in that press conference, unacceptable.
And Watson took the high road. He didn't come back at Mickelson.
Right.
So
that's Tom's style.
Now, Bob, you had a different take on it on Mickelson.
Well, not entirely. My thought is it's good to see passion from Mickelson's part or any U.S. player's part, but I agree with Doug in this instance. Maybe that's a discussion to have one-on-one with Watson or amongst your peers in the golf industry. But
the passion has to be on a golf course,
right?
Not at the press conference. It's too late.
Yeah,
so,
right. Yeah. Like Reed, Patrick Reed.
Yes.
He showed, and that's what some of the European analysts like Colin Montgomery said, that the U.S. needed 12 Patrick Reeds.
Right.
And that got me thinking about, remember at Brookline when we just went over the top with our celebrations and the intensity of it. I guess there's got to be a fine line there then as to what's acceptable for passion, Because I think if the whole team was like Patrick Reed, I don't know, it just seems like it would have been a little crazy out there. Like Patrick Reed, Sergio, Poulter, I think those guys play with a lot of emotion, but there's guys on the European side with that were a little more subdued. So
yeah, it's hard to tell if someone who doesn't wear their emotions on their sleeve, so to speak, misses a putt, their reactions is a little bit different than maybe Ian Poulter's, but the feeling may be the same.
Yeah, you're right. It's just the way that you kind of show your emotions.
So remember in '99, though, Tom Lehman and David Duval showed emotions that was totally out of character.
Especially for Duval, yeah, for
on
both
that
of
Sunday,
them.
right? So, but the crowd didn't erupt like it did when Justin Leonard made that long putt. But why couldn't more Americans be like Duval and Lehman at that time? You make a couple shots.
Seems
Get
like it would
pumped.
be fun to, be able to kind of get that into it, because it's tough to, if you show that much emotion, like during a regular PGA Tour event, people would get, this guy's crazy, But so
Right.
it's a chance to actually, get a little more intense out there, and I think you kind of the Europeans embrace that culture a little bit, and the Americans just didn't have the camaraderie, right? Is that why we lost? We don't have this camaraderie.
Well, I think the Europeans certainly have more fun than we do at that event. You listen to the songs; they have better songs than we do.
Yeah.
Okay, and they dance on the first tee and all that. And we typically don't do that, but they seem to have a lot more fun. And it's weird for me to figure that out because they're multiple countries.
Right.
We're just multiple states.
Right.
So, but they seem to bond a whole lot differently than we do and have a whole lot more fun. Their handshakes seem to be more passionate, high fives or fist pumps, whatever, much more involved than ours.
And you're right. They're different, countries. There's Spaniards, and Germans,
Yeah.
and Englishmen and Irishmen all on the same team. And generally, those are nationalities have warred against each other.
Yeah, they
Right.
We're all Americans. We actually went over and fought in World War II with the English, and it's, if you want a little world history.
Right.
But whatever, I guess bygones are bygones in Europe for the Euros.
Well, when it comes to that, right?
When it comes to
is.
golf,
Yep.
Now, if there's a soccer game this weekend, what happens?
that's true.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true too.
True. Yeah. Good point.
But I guess Europeans kind of, it's easy for them to unite as golfers, because that's the old game kind of over there in Europe, and the U.S. is the new game. Not so new anymore, but you just tell by looking at the courses, the difference between American and European golf. Although Gleneagles was kind of an American-looking course, it wasn't your typical St. Andrews or
Right, designed by Jack
Muirfield.
Nicklaus, so it sure
Yeah.
looked like it was in the U.S.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what do you think? Is it Watson's fault? Is it the captain's job to get the camaraderie going and to pick the right guys to create that chemistry? Can you put the blame on Watson for the Americans' poor play?
Well, the 10 of the 12 spots are picked during the course of the season, right?
That's
so there's
true.
I'm sorry, there's 9 of the 12 this
9.
year.
3.
They change that every once in a while. But so there's 3 captains picked, so he could do some things with the dynamics there. The rest of his job is really getting the pairings together. And it looks like the pairings to me were pretty solid as far as friendships, and like Mickelson always plays with Bradley.
Yeah,
They
but
enjoy
then
each
he
other.
didn't play it all on Saturday,
Right.
which is I thought that's just crazy, because
Right.
that's one of our dream teams coming in, Bradley and Mickelson,
So that certainly could be scrutinized for sitting those 2 guys all day Saturday.
and they won
But they
on
did.
Friday.
Right.
Yeah,
But we don't play well.
When
We
it-
don't make putts. We don't make clutch
Yeah.
shots.
Yeah. It comes down to making the shots.
They're professional golfers.
Right.
Yeah, on paper it's equal.
Yes.
Going in, and they might
Right.
have McIlroy, the best player in the world right now,
Right.
but we have Mickelson. We have, if you probably took the top 50 PG world rankings, we probably actually have a higher aggregate than the Europeans. You think?
We had a lower average
A lower
on the world
average.
rankings, which means we had a stronger team
Right.
on paper at the
On
end.
paper.
Yeah. So I wonder if the European Tour, though, is not rated high enough in the world rankings. Because I think the rankings are slided a little bit towards the U.S. Tour with the majors and the rest of the Euro Tour, or the U.S. Tour. So should the European Tour get a little more consideration? Because Jamie Donaldson, not much heard of in the U.S., had a
Right.
nice week,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? So what's he doing over there that we're not aware of?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure that the European Tour as a whole, if you win a European Tour tournament, it's on par with winning a PGA Tour regular event.
Right. And most of those guys want to get on our tour and live in Florida or
Mm-hmm.
Texas or wherever. So
Well, what about the selection process for the U.S. then? What kind of things can we change, or should we change, or should we keep it the same? What should we change about picking our team?
right now I would think that if we just shortened up the span of time where they're earning points, like maybe if we started, for example, at the U.S. Open and ran through the Tour Championship, you get
It's
the
like
hottest
3
players.
months of the heat of the season.
Right. And you get more the players are more sharp at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always would reserve a couple of captain's picks. I think, I'm a Tiger Woods fan, And if, for example, Tiger Woods was injured, but he's playing back and he's getting in form, maybe
Right.
in late August, early September, he's had quite a career and he deserves a little bit of consideration. Jack Nicklaus got in a couple of them back in the 70s after being injured, and he didn't make it on points. But
Well,
he certainly
yeah.
deserved to be on a team.
That's why I kind of like I like maybe 6 captain selections.
Have more of
Because
them.
then you can just have the common sense rule. We can build in all the the qualifiers. You can keep it even over 2 years, and then
Well, that gives you
you
a
can pick up the guys that are hot, and then also
Yeah.
pick up the guys that you want on your team just because of the name value and the experience.
Right. You get the hottest players at that point. I think that makes a big difference.
Mhm.
So I like captain's choices, more captain's choices.
Mhm.
But it's also fun to watch these guys play throughout the summer, of a Ryder Cup year. And you take a look at the Ryder Cup standings, and when a guy wins, they might say, "Oh, that move bumps him up to number 9," and bumps Hunter Mahan out, and Tom Watson's going to have this. It adds a lot, for the golf fan,
Right.
I think. But at the end of the day, I like more captain's picks. It gives the captain a chance to put his personal brand on the team. If we're going to blame the captain for the loss or the win, they should have more of a hand in selecting the team.
Right.
So
I think you're going to see some changes
Yeah, I
after
think so
this
too.
controversy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's so funny. This Colt Ryder Cup thing kind of turned around on us. We dominated it for a century, and then, or maybe not a century, but since the 20s. When's that one? 1800?
1929 or something was the
And-
first one.
And we won them all
Right.
until when was the first time the Europeans won? Early 90s?
Yeah, mid 90s, early 90s.
Well, they won here in '95 at Oak Hill.
Yeah, that's right.
That wasn't
yeah.
the first win, though.
Okay.
But that's when the tide started to change, because we won in '99, and then '08 is the only 2 we've won since '95.
And now it's 3 in a row for the Europeans.
Yeah.
So, and I almost kind of feel like the Ryder Cup, and it's probably because of where it was played in the time zone and everything, but I almost feel like it flew under the radar. We're in the heat of football season, college and pro, and not to mention baseball season coming to an end, and Derek Jeter playing his last game. I feel like it kind of flew under the radar, but I guarantee you at Hazeltine, with us coming off 3 losses, that there's going to be a kind of resurgence of interest here in the U.S. for the Ryder Cup.
Right.
So, speaking of 2016, who should be our captain? I mean, I like the idea of Fred Couples a lot. That's kind of who I'm kind of pulling for. I don't know what you guys think.
I would not argue with Fred Couples at all. Big
Yeah.
fan of Fred Couples. He's done well in the President's Cup.
If you had the pick today, that's who you'd pick, or is there someone else?
I would consider Paul Azinger as well if he was
Yeah.
interested.
Yep.
But I don't think Paul's interested.
Really?
I don't think so.
He likes to win the one and just be done. Say I won. I think doesn't want to put his pod system back into
No,
play.
my opinion is, it just seems like he's kind of fading away a little bit. Freddie, closer to the players, brings a lot of appeal to it with the crowd.
Yeah.
I think you really intensify that. And right now, I would pick Fred Couples.
How about you, Bob?
My vote would be for hard ass.
Like who?
I'm trying to think who that would be.
You're looking for a hard ass.
Yeah, looking for someone to get in there.
Some people have said
motivate these
Mickelson.
guys.
Some people have even said Mickelson, which I think is a horrible choice. I don't
Yeah.
think he has that type. I mean, he flew on his own private jet over to Gleneagles
Yeah.
and didn't even fly with a team. I think that behind everybody says the nice things about Phil Mickelson on tour, but I think if you were sitting in the back room playing cards with a bunch of those guys, that they'd tell you some stories about why they don't like Phil Mickelson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, still thinking of a hard ass. How about Furyk? How about Jim Furyk?
I think I'm trying to think about the past Ryder Cups and who's been took a loss hard or was very passionate. And there's quite a few.
Justin
but-
Leonard?
I just think he's too young. I mean,
Yeah, what is he? He's 40, mid-40s.
He's got to be in mid-40s.
Maybe a little too
You
young.
mentioned Furyk. I think Furyk still would make the team in 2 years. The way
Yeah.
he's playing right
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Well, could we have a playing captain? I mean,
He
that-
sure could.
we've had.
I
in
don't like
past,
the
right?
idea of that,
Yeah.
though. I don't like Nicholas was probably our last playing captain.
Probably was, yeah.
I don't like the idea of that, though. I think
the format or the event has changed. It's
yeah.
much more dynamic than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess trying to think of hard ass for you on tour, but I
Yeah,
can't.
it's tough.
Scott
It's
Hoke.
tough.
Scott Hoke.
There you go.
Now, if I think about European teams, I come up with probably 2 or 3 names right now. Colin Montgomery would be one of my top picks, right?
He just was it 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, and,
Right,
he won,
yeah.
and they won.
Yeah.
He
I
was-
mean, I'm sure, I bet you when you were in a room with him, you listened, right?
I'm almost surprised they don't give it to him perpetually, because for a guy who struggled to win a major, won tons of golf tournaments,
Right.
but never won a major, when the Ryder Cup came around, he epitomized the Ryder Cup.
Oh, he was tough.
He was tough to beat, almost impossible to beat.
Right.
And then he captains the team, and they win on American soil.
Right.
I like the idea of a perpetual captain. If I'm Europe, I go with Montgomery. But then again, McGinley obviously did a great job.
Right. Yeah. It's tough to say.
So I guess we don't have a hard ass.
No,
Well,
it's got to
I'm
be
trying to
couples.
think. I'll come up
Couples.
with one. Couples, I think, would be a great captain. I really do.
What about Jack Nicklaus?
I think he would be good too.
Yeah, I guess the thought there is there'd be too big a disconnect between him and some of the younger players. But you know what? Even the youngest players like Ricky Fowler, they have a lot of respect for Nicklaus. And Nicklaus gets involved with younger players, and just in the terms of a phone call maybe or giving advice. You always hear stories,
Right.
From younger players saying that Jack Nicklaus congratulated him on this or gave him this piece of advice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't. Nicklaus would probably turn it down. Actually,
I say you get the old Indiana basketball coach in there with a folding chart.
Bobby
Bob Knight.
Yeah.
I think you get Boo Weekly. You'd have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he.
Yeah, 'cause we don't
you're
have
not
a lot
gonna
of
say
fun.
no to him.
Right. We don't have a lot of fun.
Right.
What about? I got to thinking too. What about one of the top? I can't think of any off the top of my head. Maybe you do know some, Doug. But a legendary college coach, because they're used to coaching teams and personalities and playing in different matches.
Yeah. Does it necessarily have to be a golf?
No, it could be anybody
Golfer.
that you could get the call.
Well, how about Michael Jordan?
Right.
Yeah, that's
He
good.
seems to be involved.
Didn't he? Yeah, he
He was
did.
there.
Yeah.
Well, something will have to change by 2016. They must announce the captain soon, right?
They do it very soon.
So he can start preparing.
Yeah. Right now I feel sorry for the selection, unless it's Freddie Couples. Freddie could handle the scrutiny,
Yeah.
because the media is going to be all over this for 2 straight
Right.
years, more than they ever have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, before we get off the topic, I gotta say that I do like Azinger's approach.
Mhm.
He breaks the team into groups based on personality. So then he'll only pair within those groups, and he'll also, leading up to the Ryder Cup, have special little outings with just this different groups.
Mhm.
I don't know. I kind of like that because
Yeah.
you can't to get 12 people on a team to like each other enough to spend that much time together. But certainly you can pick out from a group of any 12 human beings. You could put these 3 over here, these 4 over here, and say these guys all get along, so I'm going to pair them together. These 4 guys get along, and these 4 guys get along. Not that everybody doesn't get along a little, but there's just
Yeah.
I like it. It obviously worked for Azinger. He wrote a book about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll see. 2016 be here before you know it. We'll be closing down season 3
Mm-hmm.
of the Golfer Podcast, and then next year's a President's Cup.
Right. And Couples is the President's Cup captain, right? Coming up in
Ooh,
15.
a
that
good
would
interview.
probably affect him not getting the Ryder Cup then, right?
Or right. Plus, if he wins that opens the door for more scrutiny. Why didn't he get chosen for the Ryder Cup then?
Yeah, wouldn't it be impossible to choose him because they'd overlap. The duties
Right.
would overlap.
They originally used to choose somebody who won the PGA major event, because that's a PGA of America run tournament, not the PGA Tour. But you go back in the 60s, 70s,
Yeah.
you had to win the PGA to be considered as a captain. Freddie Couples never won the PGA.
Mm.
And Watson obviously did,
Yes.
and Azinger did. I remember when
Yes,
he knocked it
chipped
out
in
of
the
the
bunker.
bunker.
Yes. Some others did not, though, but they've
Yeah,
broken
so-
away from that mold a little bit, but that was the original mold.
Yeah, I say, get away from that mold entirely. Get like Bill Parcells in there or something.
Tom Coughlin.
There you go.
Yeah, Coughlin and then
Get advisors, right?
Yeah.
Guys that have done it before.
Well, I think that's why they brought Jordan in
You need
years
some
ago,
motivators.
preparing for
Right,
the big
yeah.
game and
Right.
from different aspects.
Right.
So.
Because, these guys are golfers. They're used to going out and play as individuals.
Right.
And here, what I envision the American team did is they all showed up the day, they had their dinner, whatever. They all went their separate ways. But then they showed up the day of the tournament, saw each other in the locker room, gave each other kind of a wave, put their shoes on, and went out.
Yeah, and maybe who knows? Maybe Bradley and Ricky Fowler went and did something.
Yeah, right. So, you kind of got to have that build up and that that pump up. I'm thinking about like a football team. They get that couple hours before they're warming up, and then an hour before they're all in the locker room doing pregame prep, and then you have that warm up before you actually go out. That stuff, I don't think it'd be taken too lightly.
I don't know, but I'm guarantee the Europeans probably spent more time together as a team than the Americans. You can just tell.
Oh yeah.
But well, let's shift gears a little bit. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring Doug in tonight, and we've been saving this topic kind of till we could get him up here, is equipment maintenance. I want to talk about equipment. And Bob, I know you're a big equipment guy. Doug does a lot of maintenance, changing of grips and shafts, and he's done all that. And so first, let's kind of start off the discussion just talking about grips. And we were playing golf the other day, and we were talking about how so many weekly league amateur players the clubs that are on their grip, the grips that are on their clubs that they bought 12 years ago are the same grips.
Right.
And obviously, Doug, the value. Can you just tout the value of changing your grips?
Right. Well, certainly, the grip is a critical part of the whole thing. It's the only place you come in contact with the club is your hands, right? So even just somebody who plays one night a week probably ought to change their grips at least every other season.
Yeah.
If you play more than that, you really should change them every season. And some people do it twice. All right. I mean, forget the guys on television; they probably do it every week. But I mean, for us, we typically play 2 or 3 times a week. Us 3 gentlemen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at least once a year, we should change our grips.
Mm-hmm.
And which is kind of what I do.
Right.
Bob, how old are the grips on your irons right now?
Beginning of August.
Oh wow! So you
Yeah.
change them monthly?
No, I change twice a year.
You really change your grips twice a year?
Yep.
I told you Bob was an equipment guy.
Yep.
So what's your preferred brand?
It used to be the Golf Pride Velvet. What are the
Tour Velvet.
Tour Velvets. And then I was turned on to the Golf Pride. Now I have the. It's kind of a. Shoot, I can't remember the name of it. I'm a real equipment guy. But it's more of a softer grip, very tacky, kind of. Shoot, I can't remember the name of them. But anyway, that's what I'm playing with now.
And your grip's a choice.
Mine, I use a Golf Pride. It's a platinum. It's a cord grip, and right now I use mid-size, so slightly bigger diameter. All right,
Yeah, that's something new to golf over the past maybe decade is the fatter grips for
Multiple
irons,
sizes.
and especially putters. It gets crazy.
Right.
But so you like the cords?
Like the cords, it's to me they stand up a little bit longer. I don't grip the club very tight, so the cord seems to bite into my glove and my hand a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit better than a regular rubber compound grip. All right, because I don't squeeze that tight, so it seems to work better and last a little bit longer. And the platinum, they offer all kinds of colors and sizes and.
And not any interest in the soft grips like the wind grips used to make, like they were like a pillow almost,
Yeah, I tried a couple of those over the years. I didn't like it. It was way too soft for me. Now, that's a personal preference. Some people will like them, and they offer 500 different styles of grips anymore, so you can really find whatever fits your style and approach.
And less durable those wind grips were. I had them for a season, and then halfway through they were starting to tear. But the club moves a little bit in my hand when I swing. At least it did back then.
They offer a little bit more. Wind's offered a lot more different styles now than they did originally, because the first few they came out with were all those soft ones.
And to change the grips, a lot of people don't understand how easy it is. I mean, it's easy if you have the right tools, which, what do you need if you want to change your grips at home?
Okay, so you need a simple razor blade will cut off the old grip. Take the razor blade through it. Be careful. It's a razor blade. It can obviously cut you. But a razor blade will remove the grip, and then you want to remove any tape that's left over underneath that. A lot of times it'll peel right off by your fingertips. If not, a simple air gun.
And don't be lazy and just put it on over the top of that, right? Or can you?
Well, you're going to start building up the diameter of the grip, so slowly you're going to have a mid-sized grip and didn't even intend to.
Right.
Okay. But if the tape is still stuck under a heat gun for just 10 seconds, we'll soften it up and it'll peel right off. And then simply put a new layer of tape on. You need to buy a vice clamp, which is like a rubber piece that'll go around the shaft.
And you got to have a vice grip.
That's what I'm talking about, vice grip.
Oh, but then you have an insert to protect the shaft, right? When you put it in the.
The one I have is all one piece. It's rubber on the inside, metal on the outside.
Oh.
So it snaps right over the shaft. Then you put it in the vise and clamp the vise down. And
Oh, gotcha,
you're in.
gotcha.
Okay. So you put it in that device, and then I personally use gasoline to lubricate the tape and the grip to slide it on.
He also lights his workspace with candles.
No, I highly recommend you do this someplace where there's not a heating element.
Some
'cause it is-
ventilation.
Yeah, I do it in the garage, obviously. So
Paint thinner, some people use.
You can
Gas
use
works better.
kerosene is the one. They also sell some solvents that you can use. And I just purchased a roll of tape that I haven't used yet that you can use water.
I've used
Oh,
that
wow.
before.
You have?
Yeah.
Good results?
It's all right. I prefer the solvent, though.
Gotcha.
Why do you prefer this? It was easier to get on, or did it not last?
I thought the solvent was better. The solvent you could buy from Golfsmith, the standard solvent. I thought it was easier to put on than the water-based.
So was that the first time you ever changed your grips, or you?
No, I've been doing it for years. The first time I did it, I struggled bad. I think
Yeah.
I bought the amount of grips I needed, and I probably ruined 4. And then I had to go order. I was so mad because I had to go order them.
How did you ruin them? You just got them covered with glue.
If you there's it's like anything else. You just got to learn. Make sure that you. I don't think I was filling the grip with solvent.
Yep.
So I was putting basically a dry grip over
Yeah, wet tape.
wet tape, and it just wasn't working. It was just such a struggle. But I learned quick.
Right.
So how long does it take you now to do your set? 14 clubs or 13 clubs.
I'm not that quick. It probably takes me an hour because by the time
That's
I get
pretty quick, don't you think? Doug,
By
take
the
about an
time
hour,
I-
Doug, per
'cause-
set.
That's about right. 40
So,
minutes.
I tell you, you watch
You
these
get
guys.
rolling.
You watch these guys on YouTube, like in
Yeah.
the tour vans. They could probably
Right.
do it in 10 minutes.
Well, they got the perfect setup.
Right.
Yeah.
But like Doug said, I'll take and I'll heat up the tape and I'll scrape it off. I make sure I get it off really good, and I'm very anal about it, and I make sure I get all the tape off.
Because they're your clubs.
And if I get a wrinkle in my tape when I put it on, I tear it off.
Right.
I don't like it.
Right.
I'm like, can I feel that?
Yeah, subconsciously you
Right.
probably would anyway.
Right.
That's not a bad business plan, is to create a little local tour van and schedule stops at all the courses. The tour van, Finger Lakes tour van will be at Wayne Hills at 10 a.m. on this date. And people just show up, and it would be a re-gripping of your set in 15 minutes. Hey.
Or an hour.
We just went from an hour to 15 minutes. So.
No, but you wasted the guys in the tour van. They can.
What do you got? So you got 4 guys in the tour van.
Yeah, somebody taking off, incrementally moving along. It's a production line.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I might have to tweak the plan. So grips are obviously important because, like you said, your hand touches the club, your club touches the ball. That's it. There's no other contact in golf. That's the weird thing about it. You're out there 4 hours, but the actual time that the pieces are coming together and there's balls impacting the club is
Right.
20 seconds.
Right.
By the way, my grips are Golf Pride CGs. Does that sound right?
It does sound right, yeah.
So that's what you would recommend.
Well, I don't know if I think it's totally up to the person and how they
Yeah.
feel, but I love that grip right now.
Yeah, it's easy to say there's not a bad grip on the market. It's all personal
That's
choice.
what you like, yeah.
People like certain colors because of their football team or
Yeah.
Mhm.
certain styles and things like that. So leave that up to the individual.
I got my Mizuno irons with a standard Mizuno Golf Pride black grips that I love right now. When they get to wear, I might not like them so much. I got a couple of my clubs have cord grips, the little yellow trim that you installed for me, Doug, and those are holding up pretty good.
Right.
And that's been 2 seasons now.
It might even be more.
Yeah,
I remember doing
maybe
that
I
for
might
you.
need to change that. Yeah, I got my wedges and one of my 3-wood, I think.
So you can tell which ones are worn. If you look at those the black ones with the yellow inlay, you can tell by looking at them if they're wearing out because they'll shine a little bit. The sweat from your hands gets in those grips and makes them rot, basically. They dry out.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were disciplined enough to go home every day and wash them with soap and water, they would last, well, not infinitely, but a long time.
See, I only do that every other day. So.
Yeah, I know. So now everybody's going to do that. But if you look at your wedges compared to like your 3-iron, you'll need total different look in the texture. Because your 3-iron you use once every 3rd round or something like that. But your wedges you could use all 18 holes, and you might even practice them with it at the driving range.
Oh yeah, that's probably the club that is in my hand the most is my
Yes.
wedge, my 60-degree wedge.
Yeah. So you look at your those shorter clubs and your driver compared to like a 3 and 4 iron, they'll look totally different. And those are the ones that will need to be replaced first.
How do you suggest to clean grips? I mean, what do you do to?
I don't do it very much either, but if you're going to do it diligently, just a little bit of soap and some water, and then dry them off. You really got to be aggressive with the towel.
What type of soap, like dishwasher?
Yeah,
soap?
that'd be fine. Yeah, but not a pretty thin.
Don't douse them in
Right.
the wet a towel.
Wet a towel would be fine
Yeah.
too. And you'll see black stuff come off of them.
Yeah.
It's just from your hands.
Right.
It's
So-
not like the rubber from the
No.
grip.
It's not breaking down. No.
Well, grips, important part. They attach to the shaft.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a guy that doesn't get. I probably got in my bag different shaft flexes on different clubs, and that probably screws with me. I just don't think about the shaft too much. I'll buy a club because maybe I hit it a couple times, and I'll take it. Or my wife will buy me a Father's Day present, and I'm like, oh, looks like I'm playing with this,
Mm-hmm.
And I guess. What about the guy, Doug, that's buying a brand new set of clubs? How do you go about that in terms of the shaft and the whole process?
Okay, so if I was going to buy a set of clubs today or recommend for somebody to buy a set of clubs, I'd go get fitted properly with somebody who's capable of doing the whole fitting process with all the gadgets, including like a TrackMan type thing, so that you can monitor what somebody's doing. They can have you hit 30 golf balls, we'll say, with different clubs, and they can get them dialed in as far as the lies of the neck of the club, what the right shaft is for you to get the optimum, say, club head speed, or the ball style you're trying to get. They can size you for the grip. They can also fix the length of the clubs to be proper for you as well. And then you get an entire set that's matched, so that your 7 iron is just like your 6 iron, with the exception of being a half inch longer. Is the only difference it would be.
And you try to conform when you get that hybrid add-on, or
Yeah, if you already got like a driver that's got a, say, an Aldila NV, which is a green shaft, and you like that shaft, it works very well for you, you should get a 3-wood that has the same shaft. Okay,
Right.
because it's going to have the same characteristics.
but different.
So-
Don't be so concerned with matching the shafts from your woods and your long woods to your irons.
No, not at all, because most people have steel irons still. For the most part, have steel
Yeah.
shafts. Okay,
Why
graphite.
is that? Why? Because of the expense? I mean,
It is part of the expense, and I'm not sure if there's really a benefit to have a graphite shaft in an iron.
What's going on tour?
Very few have graphite on the men's tour. Ladies' tour is different.
Right.
But the men's tour, I don't know if you'll find a graphite shaft in an iron. I'm
Huh.
not sure if you will. Okay, but you'll find graphite woods or shafts in their woods and their hybrids. So I just don't think there's a benefit, and it's sure not a. It's like $300 or $400 more for a set of irons with graphite shafts.
Mm.
Yeah. So
And for the average player, that's a waste of money.
yeah.
Yep.
And so a lot of this technology that you're talking about that didn't even exist even 10 years ago. So I mean, it did exist, but only for tour players.
Right.
And now anybody can get fitted the same way that a tour pro would
Right.
get fitted for clubs.
Well, I went through a fitting set with 6, 7 years ago with the irons I have. It takes about a half an hour. In the place I went to, the cost of the fitting was absorbed in the price of the clubs.
Oh, nice.
So if you're going to buy a set of clubs, the fitting's free.
Right.
So why not go get fitted if you're going to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now your choice is what clubs you want. They may try to advise a little bit. Maybe you shouldn't have forged if you have a 25 handicap type thing. Okay. But still, bottom line is, what irons do you want to buy, or what woods do you want to buy, and then they'll fit you from there.
If you're definitely going to buy irons, that's a win-win, right?
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of your level of play.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just something like I'm an impulse buyer,
But it's remarkable what they can do to get that ball to get hit in the center of the club face by bending the hosel a degree. Because they put that hitting tape on the face, okay, and you'll see the dispersion of the dimple pattern where it hits on the face of the club, and they can bring that right down in by just bending a couple things here and there, or shortening the length of the shaft.
So you don't change your swing and you hit it better.
Right. Years ago, you had to learn how to hit a golf club. Now they can put the golf club into your hand for what you got going on right now.
Yeah, see, I think I still learn to hit all my golf clubs that I buy. Like, for instance, heading into this year, talked about on the show, I played with a Titleist 905 driver just like you, Doug.
Right.
You still play with it. And I love the look and feel of the Titleist drivers. So I wanted to gain a few extra yards. I really could control that 905 good. I could cut it, I could draw it, and I didn't hit it short. I just, like all golfers, want to get along. So I bought this year's model Titleist
913?
Yeah,
913.
913.
See, that shows you how much I pay attention. 913D or whatever it is. and it's just destroyed me. It's beating me down. I keep telling myself I'm going to go get my old driver, and I just keep forgetting it. But next time you see me, I'm going to have my old driver. I guarantee you that. I'm done. I'm done.
You seem to hit that solid, but you hit it very low.
Yeah, I blame it on Bobby.
No, don't blame it on me.
Bobby said, with these new Titleist drivers, you don't want to tee it up so high because the way they weighted at the bottom. Is there any truth to that, Doug, or has Bobby sabotaged my season?
No, there is more weight at the bottom. But there's this big loft-up campaign going on. You really need to – you got to get the ball in the air.
Yeah, that seems to be the new way to go.
Right.
You got to I think you've got I think that driver would work much better for you if you didn't have that such overhand type swing on it.
Yeah, I got a strong grip, and
you get a little
inside out.
A little not as much backspin as you probably could benefit. You could benefit from more backspin, I think. You get a little bit more overspin, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm mostly overspin.
Backspin will get the ball in the air.
Now, Doug, I don't know how much we've played together this year, probably 5 times maybe this summer. But, geez, the other night we had a great match. It was Bob and I against yourself and Steve Hyde, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat us. Good match for the most part. Bob played great, and I kind of let the team down, not only with my play, but I hit the wrong ball on 11, and that cost us that hole.
You got an overlay for that?
So
we weren't going to mention that, right, Bob? No.
But we can talk about the match. But what I noticed is all of a sudden you're playing this nice high fade that's like repeatable, and you really didn't have a bad drive all day.
Right.
And how did you? And you're a guy who would draw my entire time I've known you, going back to the 1980s with wooden clubs. You were always a draw guy.
Right.
And so, number one, why did you change it? And number two, how did you change it?
Well, a couple of things. For the last couple of years, I'm hitting the driver all over the lot, and I have a two-sided miss going on. I'd miss some left, miss some right, and that's never a good thing to have going on. You mentioned back in the 80s I would pretty much draw it or hook it, so I only had to worry about the left side of the golf course.
Right.
Last couple of years, I've had to worry about both sides. So,
Yeah, because one of every 4 or 5 would just shoot out to the right.
Right. So a couple of things I had to work on. I went and got on a TrackMan up in Rochester, and I looked at some of the numbers coming off my driver, and I found that I was actually hitting my drives with a downward blow by a -2 degrees.
Ooh,
Okay, I'm going to give you a lot of numbers here. -2, and you should catch your driver on the upswing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so -2 means getting an awful lot of backspin. I was getting 5,000 RPMs backspin, so the ball would look like it goes out, but it falls down like a beach ball would.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was coming from the inside too much. My club was coming from the inside 10 degrees, and if I didn't flip it, it was going to go right. Okay.
Push.
Right. So I found that by getting a little bit more width with my arms on the way back, I was able to take the left side out of play.
Which
Okay.
is, yeah.
Which is the opposite of what I've always done. Okay. So it actually promotes, when I hit it right, just a little bit of a drop fade.
And you seem to be standing up a little taller
taller.
at the finish.
Right. I've also been working on trying to get an uppercut, basically, when I hit the ball. And, Rory McIlroy has been tough this year, hot, hitting the ball forever, right, off the tee. When he strikes the ball, his driver is coming upwards 10 degrees when he strikes the ball. The average tour player is like 4 degrees.
And you were -2
I was
before you
-2.
tested it.
Right.
Just to give you an idea, you're probably in the 20s.
Downward.
Upward
Downward.
or downward? -20?
He gets that.
Because if Rory's at 10
Yeah,
and
he's
I'm at
coming over.
20, I think I'm looking pretty
He
good.
could be level and just coming over that, too.
Oh, that too. Yeah,
There's a lot going on. I'm sure there's a lot going on there.
So I've been working on teeing the ball higher, and then as
The opposite of what Bob told me to do.
right. And then I've been, as a training device, I tee the ball up on the tee peg as pretty much as tall as I can go.
Yeah.
I put the driver head in front of the ball for a second, and then next to the face of the club, I lay an empty sleeve of golf balls.
Okay.
So about 4 inches in front of the golf ball, I got a sleeve of golf balls.
And you got to hit over. Your club has to go over
If you
that.
do that right, you'll hit the ball
Oh.
and miss the sleeve of balls.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't missed the sleeve of balls yet, but I'm hitting it less. I'm
Huh.
not pulling it like I was. Okay?
Right.
I'm just nicking the top of the edge, where I'm getting the ball a lot higher in the air, and I'm carrying it a little bit farther.
And
it
this
curves
is
just a
all
little bit.
still with that 7-year-old Titleist 905.
907, but
90
yes, I bought it 7 years ago.
907.
Yes.
So you put the sleeve in front of the golf ball?
Yeah. So you tee it up, you put the
So
driver head
you're-
right in front.
So it encourages a positive angle of attack.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're even
So you
or
go-
negative,
okay,
you would hit
okay.
the sleeve.
Right.
Now it's an
Yeah,
empty
yeah, yeah.
sleeve, so I don't have golf balls flying all over the place.
Right. That's actually a
Right.
pretty cool drill. Yeah.
But Rory's 10 degrees. It's unbelievable how high he swings at it with an upward blow and carries it 325 or something like that, and then it runs out.
Now,
Mhm.
do you think that you could, when you're out on the course, be willing to still hit a draw when the shot called for it?
Oh, I still got the hook if I need it.
If you need
Okay.
it. So you come to a
Yeah.
right to left dog leg, and you
Yeah.
might pull that out or
Yeah,
no?
what's scary enough is I still miss a lot of them right, which
Yeah.
really, because I come from the inside so much. I got to figure out a better way to draw that with basically the same swing.
Well, I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. You know, I a couple years ago started trying to play the fade off the tee just as an option to be able to, because I also tend to play draw and hook and take the right side out. But I found that I could repeat a nice fade and hit it out there about 240.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty happy with it. Then I bought this new driver, and you know, I'm not able to do it.
Typically, a
Frustrating.
bad fade is better than a bad draw.
Yeah, it's manageable.
As
Yeah.
you hook it, it's out of control.
And
Right.
you can, and the best part I like about the fade is that I can. Okay, so if I'm going to play a fade, and we'll go back to my old driver because all bets are off with the new driver, which is really why I'm having trouble scoring. But the old driver, I could look at at my target and say, okay, my worst miss, if I pull it a little bit and even tug it with a little draw, I'm going to be 20 yards left of this target. If I hit it like I want to, I'm going to be 5 yards right of this target, and if I cut it as much as I probably could, I'll be maybe 30 yards right. And see, on almost any hole, you can pick a target where your worst miss left and your worst miss right is still going to be okay if you have a shot that,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And when you're playing, like you said, the hook, you know, sometimes you can set up for that 20, 30-yard hook and you just miss it right, and it sails 20 or 30 yards right at your target. And that's not manageable.
Right. But you bring up a good thing on the drivers. Overall, driving the ball is somewhat overrated. The key is to hit the ball where it can be played.
Right.
Even the best guy in tour only hits, say, 70% of the fairways on the week that he wins.
Mm-hmm.
The average guy is probably in the 60s, right? So 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
The key is the quality of the miss.
Right.
If you're behind a tree, it's not a very quality miss. But
Right.
if you're in the first cut,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
you can still play.
I agree 100%.
So-
You always hear that putting is the most important thing, but if you really think about it, you got to get off that tee. So your next
Right.
shot isn't let me just chip it out to the fairway. So I
Right.
got to.
Well, before you can play golf, you need to be able to have enough confidence to step up on a golf tee on any course and have a shot that you feel comfortable enough to put it out there 220-ish, 220 to 250, and not be scared of, of all the trouble. Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're right, Bob. I do agree with you, but I think when you get to the level of single digit, I think that putting far outweighs it. Which I've had a really bad year putting too.
Well, if you're
I'm
if
really
you're a single
disappointed.
digit, you're probably hitting a lot of fairways.
Right, which I mean, at that point, most of the guys have figured it out. But I think if you're a 20 handicapper and you're trying to improve your score, you could, if you hit more
true, yeah,
drives,
yeah.
more consistent drives, you probably would help you as much as making more putts.
A 20 handicapper would be better off practicing a shot from 150 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Then
true
if you got in
too.
trouble, chip it to the 150, hit it on the green from there.
Yep.
It takes the double, triple, and quad out of play.
Well, when I was a 20 handicapper, I kept telling myself, just get it somewhere near the green in regulation. That was always my goal.
Right. So you take
Just
a
get
bogey
it-
at the most.
Then I can work on the short game and get it close. So but the problem is as a 20 handicapper, I'd hit it behind some tree.
Right.
Then I'd attempt to get it out so I had a decent shot back in, and then I wasn't around the green in regulation anymore. So that was always my focus.
You're right, because most of the higher handicappers who are trying to break 90, for example, it's the shots where you're 100 yards out and you duff one.
Right.
That's like a one-shot penalty. And then maybe, so you can have, and this is probably a common story for a lot of these guys that are trying to break 90, is they'll go along and have a nice stretch, but then they'll just, like I say, be 100 yard out and duff it and then skull it.
Mhm.
And then hit another chip over the green and then three putt,
Right.
and make an 8. But I feel the same way. When I was a kid, I was able to play in matches with older guys like Doug and Steve
thanks.
and Ed Boudreau and I couldn't back then the equipment wasn't as good either.
Right.
And so I was giving up distance to these guys, but I played a lot of golf back then. I lived down there. I lived by the putting green, so I always knew in these match play situations, especially a lot of times I'd play with a partner who was maybe an A player, so I was complimenting him. I knew if I could just get around that green in 2 on a par 4 regulation that I could contribute. You know, I could make that par after par, just chipping up and down. And then you get older, I've become a less skilled putter. It's too bad. So we're already 45 minutes in. You got one last comment?
I would just look at the clubs this winter. Get those grips changed now if you can. Go to Dick's Sporting Goods, go to Golf Galaxy, look them over. They've got them on display. But now they're not busy right now, so you can get them done in no time.
Mm-hmm.
You wait till March or April, they're all going on spring break. Those stores get busy. Check the graphite shafts over in case there's any frays in the graphite, because there's strings basically that are epoxy together to make the shaft. If there's anything that's sticking out, that shaft's going to break.
So you need to get the shaft replaced.
Because it becomes a weapon if that flies off of there.
Yep.
Any kinks in there are kinks in a steel shaft. I see a lot of people, they bang the clubs on the ground. If you got a $300 driver and you bang it on the ground,
Right.
it's going to break eventually.
Yep.
I saw one break last week. I won't mention any names, but it was a tomahawk slam, and then right at the hosel, snapped off.
I mean, sometimes you catch a root and you don't realize it, and it snaps.
Sure.
That's the way it goes. But usually it's fatigue of being slapped around a few times, probably too much.
Well, as I mentioned, this is the season finale of the Finger Lakes Golfer Podcast, so more important now than ever to subscribe to the show. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the red button below here on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. iTunes, Stitcher.com, search for FingerLakes1.com or Finger Lakes Golfer. Or the best way might be to download the FingerLakes1.com app at the Android or Apple Store, and you'll have access to audio episodes and video episodes. You can watch it wherever you go. You can listen in your car. Which is nice. You can listen on a walk. You can walk the dog and listen. You can mow the lawn and listen. And the nice thing is you're probably going to forget about us over the winter. But subscribe, and when we come back, boom, we'll be in your feed. Bobby LaPrade will be up in your feed. So, Bob, no pick of the week segment this week for the season finale, but you did use the Salty Grip.
Yes,
SaltyGrips.com is a website, and it's a cork putter, and I held it, and I didn't like it. I thought it was crazy, but I thought it might be something you might need to get used to. So you used it this week. What's your final answer?
Well, all I can say, Jim, as advertised, this thing is life-changing. Not really. It's a grip. It's a grip, guys. It's a grip. Now, what I will say about it is if you're a guy that really likes to feel your putter head, it's very light, and it'll give you that opportunity to feel your putter head. I'm not putting any better. I wouldn't say I'm putting any worse. But if you like that feel of cork and you like that lightness so that you can feel the more of your putter head, then that's definitely the grip for you.
Well, let's move right along here onto our news segment, local golf news. The New York State Mid-Am at Cedar Lake, or not Cedar Lake, at Tayujica Country Club in Rome. Jamie Miller from Tri-County Country Club wins the 31st annual event with a 4-under par, 3-round total of 206. So, Mid-Am for golfers 25 years of age or older, I believe, right? Got a great tournament coming up on October 11th at Dutch Hollow. It's their 3-man scramble. $75 entry fee includes skins, lunch, and dinner. You're playing sixums, cash prizes, and Dutch Hollow is a fantastic scramble course, so you get one more time to play it this year if you can get signed up. They sent out, actually, this week a list of people that signed up, and I think they already had something like 18 teams. So,
oh, wow.
If you want to get in that, you better sign up soon. And then at Seneca Falls Country Club on October 18th, it's the SFCC Scratch Series 3-Man Fall Classic. It's a long name.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, but it's same deal. You're talking about $65, includes golf and cash prizes. Application and info at SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. Just this past weekend at Seneca Falls, we held the Scratch Series 2-man, and 10 under won it. It was the team of Jason Clark and Scott Harris Jr., and they also made a 2 on the difficult par 4 16th at Seneca Falls, which I don't want to put that in your memory banks.
Okay.
There's a chance that might be the first one of our whole Dream 18.
Nice.
Okay. Holes in one this week. Bob Mitchell aced the 165-yard 11th hole at Highland Park using a 5-iron. Doug, I believe you know Bob Mitchell.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
He was playing with Ed Krikovich, who shot his age 2 weeks ago. Charlie Holmberg aced the 125-yard 17th hole at Beaver Meadows using an 8-iron. Paulie DeMarco aced the 185-yard 12th hole at Cobblestone Creek using a 6-iron. Bill Kruling used a 6-iron to score a hole-in-one on the 134-yard 6th hole at Sodas Bay Heights. And keeping it at Sodas, Tom Scholl used a pitching wedge to ace the 128th-yard 12th hole at Sodas Bay. So I'd ask you to send your hole-in-ones, but this is our last episode, so good luck with any late-season aces out there.
Mm-hmm.
And now, without further ado, I do believe it's time for the Finger Lakes Dream 18, special 3-hole edition this week. Okay, this is episode 16. We've done 16. This will be 16, 17, 18 to round out the season. Now, when we do the Finger Lakes Dream 18, we choose, if it was hole 1, it has to be a first hole. And we chose the first hole at Ithaca Country Club, and so on and so forth. So let's get right to it. The 16th hole of our Finger Lakes Dream 18 is coming straight at you from Seneca Falls Country Club, and it is a 442-yard par 4, and it's generally or widely known as the toughest hole in Central New York. And that's not just a promotional deal. The Central New York PGA circuit over the years has played this hole as part of the Pro-Ams, and they used to track detailed statistics, and the average score on this hole is like a 4.7, which put it well above any other hole that they played. Being a par 4, that's kind of hard to believe. These are really good players, but Doug, what makes it so hard?
Well, I think it's a combination. It's a very difficult driving hole with trees on both sides. You got to be reasonably long, and you got to get as left as possible to give it the better angle, because the right side anymore, the trees are tall and they hang over. So you could get in the right rough only by a little bit and not have a shot to the green without aiming at the water and hitting a big cut. Yeah. So it's a difficult drive. And then when you get down there, you're faced with a shot anywhere from, let's say, from maybe 200 yards down to even 150. You get down in the 100-yard range. If you're that long, it's a pretty simple shot. But from 150 yards back, you got a pond on the left, some trees that are got to be 100 foot tall at least to block the right side. And it's a tough fit to hit a 5-iron or a 5-wood or a hybrid in there with a little low cut of some sort, or high enough to go over the top of those trees.
Mm-hmm. So you need a perfect drive as close to the woods as possible on the left, which that alone sounds like it makes it hard. Right. You want to get as close to the woods without going in, right?
Yep.
And then the pin positions can affect the difficulty too, like a back right pin or a front right guarded by those trees just makes it all that harder.
Right.
A front left pin, it makes it a lot easier. And I know for the Pro-Ams that it used to usually be a back right or a front right pin to make it even harder.
Well, last night when we played, it was middle right, extremely right.
Yeah.
About middle in the distance.
Amazing. Anything right's hard.
And it's hard to get over there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hole 16 at Seneca Falls Country Club. Joins hole 9 from Seneca Falls Country Club as part of our Dream 18. And now we move on to hole 17, which is the 17th at Clifton Springs Country Club, a 413-yard par 4, dogleg right, turning at a large tree on the right side of the fairway. A pond on the left is reachable for most of its whole length with your tee shot. Unless you're really long, then you can reach it out around the corner. You might want to be on the left side of the fairway to take the large tree out of play. And this is a personal pick for me because I've played Clifton a handful of times over the years, maybe a dozen. It generally tends to be late afternoon tee time. And so when I come up to the 17th at Clifton, the sun is setting to the left, and it just illuminates the tree line on your right. And the green is set back in a bunch of trees. It's just I like the way it feels. When you're on that green, the 17th at Clifton, it's really like its own area. You can't see much else around it. And, so I was always impressed when I came to 17. You know the hole I'm talking about,
Yes,
Doug?
I do. Yes, I do.
And so now there's an example of a hole that you probably wouldn't like playing with a draw. A lot easier playing a high fade.
I'm trying to think the last time I actually hit it on ground on that hole. I seem to find a pond more times than not. So maybe that cut will be a little more advantageous there.
And Bob, you've played Clifton?
Yes, quite a few times.
That's a fun course. And
Yes,
what do you
is.
think about the 17th? Is it a good pick?
Yeah, I agree. I love it.
Well, that brings us to the 18th. We'll round out our Dream 18, and for 18, we're going all the way back to Ithaca. It's going to be the first hole and the 18th hole, because there's no more memorable of a finishing hole that I can think of in the Finger Lakes than the par 4 425th yard 18th at Ithaca Country Club. A strong finishing hole. You hit a downhill tee shot over rolling fairways, and then you must navigate around or over. I say around because it's kind of a long hole. If you don't hit a good drive, sometimes you got to play it to the right.
Yep.
A water hazard with a nice fountain in it. You can't see the fountain in this photo. But then up to a green that's set below the clubhouse, creating a natural theater for matches finishing on the 18th. And the bushes, you can't see it in this photo either, but the bushes beyond the green are in the shape of an ICC. It's just a really memorable hole, and we've all played it.
Right.
And any arguments with that is like the 18th?
No,
It's a great
very
choice.
Good pick.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other 18th holes, finishing holes that might have been contenders that maybe we could acknowledge?
Not at the moment.
I like the 18th at Wayne Hills. If you use the
That's
the
a good
middle
one.
or back tee, I think it's a demanding tee shot and then a equally demanding second shot. But this is much more picturesque with the clubhouse right behind it and the fairway going down the hill like that.
Yeah, rolling. There's
Yeah.
different tiers, actually.
Yeah.
It's
There's
like steep
plateaus.
drops off. Now, did
Yeah.
you ever play in the two-man that they had up there? It used
I
to be a
did.
match play tournament over like 4 days.
Yes.
And the great hole to have a match come down to, I
Yes.
imagine.
Yeah, I agree.
And you got a little spectators over there having lunch on the balcony at Ithaca.
Or some beverages.
Yeah, and some moms and kids swimming in the pool. They have a nice pool at Ithaca. So there you have it, Bob. We've done it. We've covered 18 holes this season. I don't know if that segment will come back. We can only have one Dream 18. The next one will be like a secondary runner-up 18.
Yep.
But we did talk about some ideas about maybe actually heading out and videotaping us playing a few holes here and there in some area courses and getting the pro of that facility out with us. So who knows what next year will bring.
Yep.
But I got to tell you, it's time for the last segment of the year, and it's time for our Zen Tip of the Week.
Uh-oh.
Zen Tip of the Week.
All right, Zen Tip of the Week. All season long, I give you Zen tips. I'm messing with your head. Something about when I first read Zen Golf, I said, this makes so much sense. I'm the guy he's talking about in here, the guy who gets mad all the time, and the guy that thinks the negative thoughts, and the guy that sabotages his own game by what goes on in my head. So I really, and in that book, he always says, this isn't something you just do. This is something you have to practice. It takes years. And I agree, and I'm happy with as far as I've progressed in some aspects of it. Like, I certainly don't get as angry as I used to on the golf course, and that's a big thing, and I'm probably more enjoyable to play with. I don't feel like I'm trying or any less intense. I just don't get as mad as I used to. You have to accept, I suppose, that golf's hard, and so, I still have difficulty with the keeping bad thoughts out of my mind. If you play with me, you see me step away from a lot of putts, especially important putts. Sometimes I'll be over it. You think I'm about to hit it. Oh, I stepped away. It's because I realize I'm not nearly in the right mindset to hit the shot. And I usually make it if I step away like that, in my experience. So that's some stuff I got to work on. But, what I want to ask you guys about is, because when I did that, when I went the Zen Golf route, I abandoned any swing changes. I I just tried to play the game with what I had and focus on the mental side. Part of it was because I didn't have as much time as I used to practice, and part of it was because I wasn't having as much fun. And the biggest byproduct of it has been I've enjoyed playing golf more because I feel like I'm just playing the game. I'm not tinkering with my swing. But this year, for whatever reason, I started to want to tinker again, and some equipment changes, and I just tell you, it's not been a great year for me. So what I'm asking with Doug in here is I want to know, as a guy who's really, works on the mechanics of your swing and also incorporates the equipment, you fine-tune the equipment, all that stuff, but how much is the mental game a part of your game? A 4-time club champ, playing in a lot of high-level tournaments, and are you a robot, or how much is the mental side?
Certainly the mental side is, I don't know, 80-90% of the game when you get down to it. If you could, you go to the driving range, you practice, you work on things, you make some changes, maybe new clubs, whatever. Then you got to separate that when you go to the golf course. You got to go to the golf course, go with what you got, and just have fun. Forget everything else. And it's not that easy to do, because you can be a driving range commando, and go out and shoot 100.
And then you get mad. The guy says, I hit everyone in the driving range straight.
Yes.
And I come out here.
Yeah, the driving range is 200 yards wide as well, so
True.
sometimes it's a little bit misleading. But mental's big. I played in a tournament a couple weeks ago, and the greens were very, very difficult, and I was in trouble mentally right out of the gate.
At the Senior Open, the New York State Senior Open.
Then you start trying to hit the shots into the greens too precise, and then you start missing greens in the wrong spot, and next thing you know, you're not doing as well as you would hope you were doing. So the mental side creeps into everybody. I don't care what level it is, and I'm certainly not that high a level, but it sneaks in there.
Well, that's the thing. In our little, neck of the world, our little golf world, it's the thing I like about, playing at St. Falls Country Club, or any golf club, this is true, I think, is that the group of guys you play with, that's a mini PGA Tour.
Mm-hmm.
You're competing against each other week to week, and the stakes aren't as high, and nobody really cares outside that circle as much as you do. And then you have your majors, like the club championship, which you've won 4 times. That's our major at Seneca Falls. So I guess, Bob, you, as we've talked about many times, started out as a 130 shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And you've progressed to a point, and you've started trying to use a little more Zen golf techniques too.
Oh yeah.
And so, how's that going for you?
Good when I realize I need to use it. And it's not so much. It's I think realizing you need to do it is half the battle. For me personally, because when I might get down, or I'm not, get down on myself from a few of the shots I've hit, like I said, it's half the battle, is realizing that you need to take a step back and think about how to handle the future holes.
And I see guys that are more talented than I am that sabotage themselves. And I guess it's easy from the outside looking in at someone else after saying geez, I see people say the things at the wrong time. But I've called you on it sometimes, Bob, when you stepped up to a ball and maybe said something that like don't want to hit it there or something like that. And I said that's a bad swing thought.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But I hear that a lot of guys just they sabotage themselves the last 4 seconds before they step up to the ball by thinking or saying something, damaging to the mental state of mind.
I agree.
So I guess to wrap it up is, it's full. I think what I've realized this year is that I do need to start working on my swing. I gotta spend some more time on the range to achieve my goals, which is really, what my goals are is I'd like to shoot in the mid-70s as an average, 76 average on my home course, and then, of course, win the club championship once in my life would be nice.
Right.
So maybe it's just an evolution. I was really frustrated this year because this was the first year since I've really started Zen golf that I haven't felt like I've been a little more better at everything. I took a step back. So maybe it's too much podcasting.
Maybe.
This can't help your game, all this talk.
From what I noticed different in your game is your driving accuracy and your putting. Your strokes average per putting's probably gone up 2-3 strokes around.
Easily. It's frightening.
And then last night, you really didn't drive the ball that well.
Oh, no, it was bad.
Okay, so there's your 2 opportunities right there.
And the nice thing about it is the putting is one thing you can work on in the winter.
Easily, yes.
And it's, I'm not even so concerned with longer length putts. I'm concerned with inside 5 feet. And I think that a lot of the breakdown, when you miss a few of those, everything can go a little haywire. Everything becomes harder.
You were a machine from there.
And that's how you do it. When you can make those 5-footers with regularity and in, then all of a sudden your chipping's not so much pressure, your wedges aren't so much pressure, even your iron shots, because if you miss the green, you're still going to have it make a par if you.
Right.
Okay. Well, hey, great season, Doug. Thanks for coming in for the finale.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome conversation.
Really enjoyed it.
Have you back next year for sure. And Bob, these episodes where we have guests are up here with us are always a lot more fun.
Yeah, they are.
It's not that we don't like talking to each other, but but it's always nice to gain some insight from guys who've actually won the club championship, which is what we're trying to do.
Yep.
Play fall golf, everybody. We're coming off the air, but we got another at least month of probably quality golf here in the Finger Lakes, and we're not even at peak foliage yet, so the leaf rule is not necessarily in effect.
No leaf rule in effect yet.
But Bob will send out an email alert when it goes into effect.
Check my Twitter and Facebook.
So, as I said, remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, Stitcher, or iTunes, or download the FingerLakes1.com app on the iTunes or Android store. And Bob, thanks again, for coming up here every Monday night. And I
thanks for having me, man.
have enjoyed, talking golf with you for the season. So,
hey, it's no different than what we do in the bar, right? Except we got mics and headphones on.
And it's set at 1 hour exactly.
Right.
Or, just set time on it.
Yep.
Which we've gone over a little bit here for our finale. But we hope you all had a great time hanging out with us for the past hour for episode 16 of the Finger Lakes Golfer Podcast and for joining us every week this summer. Over 5,000 views, streams, or downloads this season and growing. We look forward to growing the show next year and reaching out to even more of you in the Finger Lakes. If you'd like to contact the show, send an email to contact@fingerlakes1.com with the subject line Finger Lakes Golfer. And have a great winter. Try to work on your game in the off season. We'll be back with you in April of 2015 for our season premiere during Masters Week. Until then, hit 'em long, not often.
Support great local content like this by becoming a patron of FingerLakes1.com. Visit patreon.com/FL1.
FingerLakes1.com